Okay, this is a quick screencast just by way of a refresher for assignment 3, because some people have asked just to be reminded about some things we've covered earlier in the year. So specifically we're going to deal with creating a new application in GitHub and creating a domain model and setting some defaults up for the domain model. Okay, so if I grab a browser, go to GitHub, so the first thing I'm going to do is to set up a new repository. Click New Repository in GitHub, and I'm going to, for my example, I'm going to create an application called Address Book. Obviously, your application is named something different, and your domain model will be something different. Address Book, I'll give it a description. No home page. Anyone can access this, so that's important, obviously, so I can see the work you're creating. Okay, so Git has responded by telling us the next steps we need to take. It's telling me to set up my Git so that when I make check-ins, they'll be recorded with my name against them. So I'll start the terminal window and just make sure that those two things have been done. And then it tells me what I need to do to create a directory on my local system, which will mirror what's on GitHub. These two things, existing Git repository or importing Subversion, you can ignore, so the only thing you need to worry about are these next steps. When I'm doing this kind of work, I usually work in a dev directory, so you can see here, in fact I'll delete it. Okay, so I usually work in a dev directory. If I make a clean directory, I move into that directory, so you can see it's empty. And what I'm going to do is to simply copy these next steps from there into my console. I've pasted the whole block of them. You can see the last thing I do is this git push origin master, and you can see everything's happened as it should. So we have copied from GitHub to our local disk the project. If I click this continue link now in GitHub, you'll see it takes us to our project with a readme file which is empty. And you can see this is the content of the readme file. Okay, so I'm in the same directory here. This is the readme file which is empty. This is all set up as we'd like it to be. What I'm going to do is to create a couple of development branches. So git branch develop, git push develop origin. So that creates a branch locally. Sorry. Yeah, git push origin develop, which says push to the origin my development branch. Okay, and then I'm going to create a branch called release. And git push origin release. Okay, and I'm going to work on my development branch, so git checkout develop. Okay, so I have an empty project. The first thing I'm going to do is to change the readme. So you might fill in commands there that explain how to build your project. That's usually quite a nice way to structure a readme file. I think the readme uses a special markup, which usually is something called Markdown, so it understands lists, for example. So lists. Okay, so we can commit that. So I'll commit this to my local Git repository. Git commit -a everything, and the message is updated readme. Okay, so I push that change up to Git. And then if I go back to Git here, if I refresh this, you'll see that it appears that nothing has changed, but that's because I'm on the master branch. I need to change the default branch, develop branch rather, where I've been working. Okay, and you can see here's my README file now reflected. So, for the assignment, you need to create a new Grails app, and I'm going to create an address book application. So, in here, so I'm in my address book directory, and I go Grails, create -app address book. Here. So Grails trundles away and does its work, and it comes back and says created address book. So you can see at the same level as my README now I've got this address book. Now in the notes I said this was a really good commit point, so commit when you have a clean repository with just your application and no modifications made. So what we'll do is git add address book. When you do a git add on a directory, it'll recursively add everything underneath that, so that's all we need to do, and then we need to commit this. Git commit -a -m added new application. Okay, and then I will git push that up to GitHub. Okay, if we pop back to GitHub and do a refresh, yeah, we can see that our application's appeared now. Okay, good. I can run this application, so I cd into the address book directory and I type Grails run -app. So it's a little slow the first time, it's got quite a lot of work to do to compile all the files. Okay, finally it's come back and said server running, browse to, and then it's given us a URL. So we can paste that into our browser. Okay, and we've got a skeletal application that we can change. So this page, just in case you feel that you want to change it, by creating a terminal window, I'll run gedit. So under web app views, Grails app views, index GSP. So this is the page we were just looking at, and if you felt you wanted to change that, let's have a look. Where's the root of the? So we've got a sidebar there that says status. Welcome to Grails. So I changed the contents of the heading one there. Okay, so you can see that change. So if you want to edit that file, and I usually completely empty the contents of that of this file. There's nothing in there we particularly need, especially all this. So just get rid of the body text if you like. And Save that. Okay, so that's, you know, you can do with that as you will. You notice that there was still a header and a footer on that page, so that's come from this meta name is layout content main. So there's a layout being attached to this page, which is defined in views layouts in here, and you'll see a main.gsp, so that main word relates to this main word here. So if you want to actually edit the overall layout of the site, you can go in there and change that if you felt so inclined. But that's not really, you know, something that we're too bothered about. What we are bothered about is creating domain classes. So the Grails command, let's stop the server running. Grails create -domain -class, and I'm going to create a domain class called address. Okay, that's done. So if I go to my editor window, close these down, we don't need them. In Grails app domain, which is where our domain objects are, we've got this address book now and address.groovy. We'll add some properties, so I'm going to add string, name, string, street, and that's all I'm going to add. We don't need anything more than that. Okay. If I wanted to use scaffolding to be able to edit that, I could say Grails generate -all address book dot address. So what I'm asking Grails to do now is to generate me all the scaffoldings, which is scaffolded controllers and scaffolded view components. Okay, so that's done. I can run that app now. Run -app. Okay, so let's go back and say it's running, and if I just type address here, okay, so here's our scaffolded list addresses. Obviously there are no addresses in it at the moment. I can click on new address and put Fred some street. Obviously this is too trivial to be a real application, but I'll add another one. James. Some other street. Okay, create that. And I might choose to edit that. Make James a capital J. Yeah, you've seen this all before. Okay, and address list. Okay, so now we've got Fred and James. So that's generated all the scaffoldings for us. The one thing which I wanted to show you as well, sometimes in an application In the Grails app conf directory, there's this data source file which defines the database for the application, and it also defines 3 environments: development, test, and production, for different deployment environments. Obviously, the kinds of things we've discussed. Obviously, your production environment might have multiple databases in it. For development, Grails gives you an embedded database which is cleared down and reset every time you run the application. That's really useful for unit testing because it means every time you run the application you're starting with a known database. But obviously, in order to use that, you might need to set up or fix up some test data. So in our Spring application there's a file called Bootstrap. Particularly in this init method, I can do anything that I really need to do to set up the application. So one of the things I can do is I could say, for example, import address book .address, which is our DTO, our domain class, and here I can say new address name, so I'll use my name, street, okay, so I can create a new address and I can save that object, and I'll say new address. If I wanted to store these objects so that I could do something with them later on, of course I can just say def, like that. I can say def Fred, and should be def, not def. So def, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So I can say, oh, I need to put a save on there. Send it to the database. Okay, so if I save that, and then if I go back to my run application, in fact, I'll stop it because the Bootstrap only runs when you first start up the application, so we need to just restart it. So the addresses which I created in the previous run, they'll be removed now because we're rerunning, because everything's been cleared down and reset up again for us, so we have a virgin application. Okay, so we ask Grails to run. Says it's running, go to address book. So in here I'd expect to see my 3 created pieces of test data. Okay, and there they are. So that's all worked really well. So the final step, if you like, in this loop for the assignment, I have created an application, I've created a domain object, I've populated some test data. So the thing I need to do now is to make sure that my changes have gone into Git. So I'll stop my application. If I type git space status, Git will tell me about all the files which have been modified and all the files which have appeared that it doesn't know anything about. So I think I've been through this in a previous screencast, but it's worth going over again just in case you're not sure. I'll say git space add, and then all the directories and all the files which are not already a part of Git. So it's actually telling me untracked files use git add to include what will be committed. You can add directories and they'll be recursed into, so controllers, domain, views, addresses. Okay. So sorry. So that was the git add command that was run. I can run it again actually. It's commutative. So git add, Grails app controllers, domain, views, address. I can rerun the git status command. just to make sure that I've got everything that I'm really bothered about. Oh, look, I missed the test directory. Target we don't need to worry about, and these two TLDs we don't need to worry about. Git add test. Git status. Okay, so that's good. We've added the files, we've got some modified files. We then say git commit -a for everything, and the message we're going to give is created address domain object generated scaffolds added test data to bootstrap. In actual fact, best practice, I would probably have broken this down into 3 separate commits, but I'm trying to stop this screencast from going on for too long. Look, I've used the wrong quote there at the end, double quote. Okay, and Git comes back and tells me what it's done. I say git commit, git push to push my changes up to Git. Okay, and if I go back to here now. Okay, so we can see if I go into this Grails app, into the domain object, you'll see address book and address, which so we've got everything committed. If you like, you could have a look at the network graph for this this application. Sorry, my machine's lagging up. There we go. So we can see that the develop branch has moved on. I'm not going to go into the merging of branches. That's something that you can either ask me about or you can read up on. Don't want to spoon feed everything. That's the majority of what's going on. And the test for you and the test for me, if you like, is that what I'll be doing after you've handed in your assignment and your written paper, I'll be checking your application out. So I've removed everything I've just created, and what I'll be doing is I'll be going to your GitHub I'll be following your instructions, of course, but your instructions are likely to tell me to go to GitHub and to clone one of these URLs. So what I'll be doing is following your instructions, which will look something like git clone and then this URL. You could actually use the HTTP URL there, it doesn't matter. I'll clone your project like this. I'll go into here, and the first thing I'll do is realize that, well, it might be on a branch, so you'll have to tell me to check out a different branch. So I'll say git checkout develop or release, depending on how you've structured your work. And there's the address book. So I'll go into your project directory and I'll type Grails run-app. And then at this point, of course, I'll start working through the tests, and your app either will compile and run or it won't. And that's that's where the marking process will start. So, as I said, I know it's a hard assignment. It's there to test you and to give you something to get your teeth into. But I'm here, so send me emails, or I'll probably have a few Sundays in the lab if you want to call down, just as kind of drop-in thing, and ask me about it in classes. But that's that's pretty much the process that I'll be going through. I'll just prove to you that what I've checked out can run. So it's checked out, it's running, I've got a URL. I'll go to AT address book. Yeah, obviously your instructions will tell me what to do. Yeah, so there it is, it's all working. So that's, that's a quick tour. Obviously your domain classes will be something different, but that's the structure. All you have to do is to turn the handle. It shouldn't be a problem. Do send me emails or come find me with questions though. Okay, thank you.